Okay, I'm going to show you a whole bunch of ways that you can charge up your power station and use expansion batteries with the Pecron E1500LFP. All right, we're going to use 130 watt input going into the 12 volt input. We're going to use a 300 watt input going at 35 into the 700 watt input. We're going to use that 300 watt solar panel, and we're going to go into the expansion battery 400 watt input. We're going to use a power supply to go from the Tacoma truck bed inverter and charge via the DC input at 280 watts. We're going to use the Pecron car charger from the alternator. There's my cable running all the way up there. From the alternator with the car idling to charge this thing up at 200, 300, 400, or 500. We're going to use an expansion battery, an LFP, to trickle charge via the 100 watt input. We're going to use a battery charger from the AC inverter to recharge the LFP when we want to. We're going to use the expansion battery to charge and equalize the total charge. And that's everything. Let's get started. We're going to start, it's 100% full. I've turned on the AC and the DC, plugged it in, and we're just going to start by draining it a little bit using this heater to 1450 watts to drain this down a little bit while I get ready. Okay, here is my 3072 watt expansion battery, and it plugs in with this cable. We're gonna plug that in there. We'll plug this one in here, and over here what we have is this 12 volt output, 30 amps that can feed the entire thing. It's its own power station without AC. We got 100 watt regular, but then this is the input. This has actually got a solar charge controller, MPPT, in here, and this goes from 12 to 95 volts all the way up to 400 watts. So if I have a panel that won't fit this one, 32 to 95, that actually goes from 19 to 95, and this one 12 to 25 actually is what it goes to. Then I can plug 400 watts directly into here. So I have all bases covered with that. Okay, right now I have two of these heaters going for a total combined of 1870 watts being used. We're just going to run this down so that I can charge it, and you'll see the charging. Okay, we're going to start with this 130 watt portable panel from Bouge RV, and that thing goes to MC4 connectors that I have connected into a 8mm, and then a converter down into a 5521. And what that's going to let me do is plug that in here, and we'll see, here it comes, 2 watts, 6 watts, 11, and that's going to pick up one panel. Now I might have a little bit of shade on that, so let me just make sure. Yeah. Okay, that may climb up a little bit more than that, but you can see right now that we're already up to 86 watts. Oh, boy, it's hard to see it, I know, I'm sorry. It's in the sun. Okay, 81 watts, 83 watts, so we're getting that from the one panel, all right? Now while I still have the light, that is a Pecron 300 watt. It's 36 volts, so that should work fine on here. I've got that going to the connector they provide. It's MC4 to this Aviation GX16 5-pin. All right, we're going to plug that in here. So we're at 88 watts from the one, and now we'll see what we're getting from the second solar panel. Should just take a little bit for that to kick in. All right, here we go, 90, it's kicking in, 118, 134, 286. All right, so that shows how we power this. Now, if I want to power this from the car using this Pecron charger right here, then I'm going to plug that into the higher 700 watt input here. I could still leave this one. Now let's unplug this and see how much my that one's doing. Okay, we know this was the first one was putting out about 88, and sure enough, we're down to 204. So we're getting 200 out of 300 from that right now. All right, so gonna plug that back in, let it keep charging down to 81% as we drain that. And I'll show you when I connect this battery to the expansion, this will automatically kick up and adjust for both of them. I had that going. I forgot to push the button on, so I push that on now. And in case I had that on pause before, I've unplugged the AC, that 1800 watt drain. I'm down to 73% batteries. That'll be plenty for me to get a charge. Okay, took about 17 seconds, and now we're getting 435 watts in. The car is running right now in idle, in from the car charger. Okay, so that's the car charger right now. Now I'm going to show you another way that I could do this. Right now, I have this voltage power supply plugged into my supposedly 400 watt inverter on the Tacoma, and I'm going to show you how we can use that to power this. Okay, I'm going to start with the 5521 port. It's 408 watts coming in from the car charger right now, 410. I'm going to plug in the 5521 at 20 volts. We know this port goes up to 100 watts, and let's turn that down. All right, there we go, 20 watts, and it's flowing in. I'm going to unplug this one so we can see what it's actually giving you. So the car charger is unplugged. Okay, right now it's flowing 66 watts, 20 volts, 3 amps, that's about correct. So at 20 volts, 5 amps ought to get me up to, which is the limit of this, for watts. All right, there's 5 amps, ought to give me about 100, and that is the limit of that input port. So you can see that that is working fine. So now I'm plugged into this with my power supply. Now, to show you that it can actually do more, I'm going to plug into the 700 watt port and increase the voltage. Here we go. All right, we're into the 700 watt port from the power supply. I'm going to spin the voltage up to, we'll get up around 50 or 60. Okay, there we go. Now it's going to take just a minute for that MPPT to start accepting voltage. It's 55 volts. It resets whenever you change the voltage. That way it'll seek for the best voltage. Takes about, here we go, kicking up, didn't take too long, 100 watts, 5 amps. I'm going to spin that up a little bit more than 5 amps and see what I can get. Basically 280 watts is what the limit is from that inverter. No matter what I set on the power supply, and I've done tests and showed it before, 275, 280 is the most I can get out of the Tacoma inverter. However, what this shows is that I can use this with an on-off switch in the cab of the truck to turn that inverter on-off to get 280 watts instead of the car charger coming directly off the alternator. It's just another method to flow in. Let's kick up, sorry. That's all it took. All right, so now I'm at 90% between the two batteries with no watts coming in. Now watch this. I have the 200 watts or so coming from that solar panel that we already tested. Now I'm going to come over here to this battery, and I'm going to plug this in to this solar input. Let me put it on pause while I use two hands. All right, here we go. 6.8. All right, 6.9 amps. All right, and to show you that power is actually coming in, it's up to 91%. It was at 90%. All right, so even though it's not showing, this thing apparently only registers power in on these two, and this cable is only passing battery state information. It's not passing information about the solar input. This shows the expansion battery charging. It's the EP3000 that matches up with the E1500LFP. It's got 3,072 watt hours versus the 1,536 watt hours in the PowerStation itself. That's a total of 4,608 watt hours, or 360 amp hours if you're used to using that at 12.8 volts. Plugs in with this cable and the power goes that way and flows in, and it gives you a total amount of power here, 91% between the two batteries. And the batteries will equalize. It'll stay 91%, but this thing actually flows energy in and equalizes this PowerStation. And as we see, while I'm solar charging the expansion battery, which has its own MPPT 400 watt input, the power going into the expansion battery gradually increases. That number went from 90 up to 92% during this video. In October of 24, the price on this is $900, which is a pretty good deal. It's almost like having 4 of the 12 volt batteries, the 100 amp hour car sized batteries. And the cost at that, when you calculate it, is like $250 for 100 amp hour amount of energy at 12.8 volts. Normal battery itself, just an LFP, costs like $230. So for an extra $20 or so, you get almost 4 of them packed into this nice unit here that comes with one simple connection cable, and it's got its own solar input and its own 30 amp DC output. So a lot of usability in that, and it's a pretty good deal. The last thing I want to show you is that instead of using this expensive heavy expansion battery, I can just use 100 amp hour 12 volt lithium battery. This is a mini from Redodo. It's 1280 watt hours, and I can just hook a cable up to these, which I got to dig around and find it, but I've shown you on a video before. If I can find it, I'll show you here in 15 seconds. And I can plug that into this 12 to 25 volt input and kind of trickle charge it at 100 watts overnight. It takes about 12-13 hours to drain this thing and refill this totally. So just one more way that I can use it. Okay, I've just screwed this on. It's a 5521 cable coming from that battery, and since this is 12 volts, I can only go into this 12 volt input. So we're going to plug that in and see. Again, it usually takes about 16 seconds. Oh, it's already kicking up. All right, so coming on up, 15, we'll let that stabilize. So this is how you can take and use just an extra LFP, smaller than the expansion battery, cheaper. This thing's only about $180 now. Okay, you can keep it warm with you easily. You can plug that in, you get yourself an extra 1280 watt hours. Oops, I just bumped that. I need to let it stabilize again. It's not the best hookup. Okay, I had to put a new cable on there, 5521. This is a 5521 input. It's got a smaller pin. This is a 5525 output. And I had a 5525 cable, which fits in there but sloppy, and it wasn't making good contact. So it kept like losing contact, and this would drop down to 0. So with the 5521 coming in, draining that battery, it's at 13.2 volts. I just tested it with my Klein. 13.2 volts. I'm trickle charging at 66 watts. All right, now, how do I recharge this battery after I've done this? Let's say I'm driving, or I have solar, or maybe I just have ground power that I can plug this into. Somehow, one of the ways I showed you, I have power coming into this. And now I want to recharge this battery that maybe I used last night. I want to get them both charged up, this and this. What do? Come over here and I have this Pecron battery charger, lithium battery charger. And all I'm going to do is take that, plug this into the AC outlet, turn on the AC from the PowerStation, hook the output cables up to this battery. I'd make a permanent, I'll show you. Here we go. I'll use this SB50 connector. to connect one of them to the battery, and the other one I'll have connected to the charger, and another one connected to just a dongle like this that I can use, so I can just connect this up to whichever one I want. Power out of here, whatever, and it's a nice disconnect, so I don't have to mess with the jacks. Anyways, I plug that in and I just charge it up using AC power out of this while it's getting power out of any of the 4 ways, 5 ways I've just showed you. All right, now we're up to 99, and I also showed you before in a previous video that it does pause at like 66 watts for a while until it stabilizes. Then it does kick up to 100 watts. I remember that now. For a while I thought that I was having bad output, but it's about a minute for that thing to stabilize. All right, there you go. That's how to use a LFP to charge, and how to charge your LFP from your power station. Thanks for watching. I'd sure appreciate it if you could subscribe to my channel if you like this kind of content, and give me a thumbs up, hit that like button for me. See you on the next one.